Welcome to Legal Research Screencast 2, focusing on secondary resources, dictionaries, and encyclopedias. This is second in a series of screencasts on secondary resources used in legal research. This material is to be reviewed before and in preparation for Class 4, September 10th, Fall 2013. Before this, you should have viewed Screencast 1, an overview of why and how we use secondary authority. In this screencast, we'll cover dictionaries and thesauri. Up next, in Screencast 3, we'll cover legal encyclopedias. Let's go into dictionaries. There are many different types. There are free ones and also print and subscription ones online, such as via Lexis and Westlaw. For example, a free one is FindLaw. You see the link there, and we'll go there in a minute. Black's and Ballantyne's dictionary are available in print and online. And Bieber's is also in print and online. Legal Thesauri will help you with your writing. Words and Phrases, a publication that we'll cover in a minute, are also in print and online. Starting with FindLaw. This is where your clients are getting their legal information for free. They may come to you and say, I did a lot of legal research and I got definitions for free online. They may be getting it from here. We can search legal terms in the top search box, for example, such as breach of contract, right? Here it says, compare to, in this case, if you look at the bottom of the page, compare to repudiation as a cross-reference. Sometimes it'll give iterations, right? Note that we have that cross-reference at the bottom. A term within the same resource, FindLaw, right? Where they say, basically where they're saying check this resource within the same resource, FindLaw, that we're using here. So if you click on that link, it gives you another definition within FindLaw for repudiation, right? Remember when we talked about cross-references in that first class of definitions? Compare that to say when the publishers will refer you out somewhere else to something else, like a case or a statute, as they do with an annotation. Regardless, it's an example of giving you more information. In this source, they'll also often, not right here, but they'll give you the source of the information in this online resource. Let's get out of here. Go to dictionary at findlaw.com. Let's say you look up breach of contract. You have the definition right here, right? The source is Merriam-Webster's Dictionary of Law in 1996. That's fine. Even if it gives you cross-references, even if it gives you plenty of good definitions, because it's 1996, you may need to update those resources. Know what resource you're using and whether you need to update it, right? How about Black's Law Dictionary? Here's an example of what it looks like in print. Here we're looking at the 9th edition. The 9th edition is the latest edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Going to the word, say, wrongful discharge, right? You see the definition, right? Here, for wrongful discharge, they give you the date that that definition maybe was defined by a court, right? This definition provides a bit more information here than FindLaw. It will even sometimes give you case annotations in terms of where this term was defined, or here, say, topic or key numbers, so you can find cases related to this specific issue using the West key number system, right? This resource may give you more useful information as a student and some cases to work forward to. It might also be a difference depending on your context, such as the type of law you're dealing with. Let's say you search for definitions in Black's Law Dictionary on Westlaw Next. If you just search in the top search box for, say, dictionary, right? They'll give you a word wheel, say, looking for this. We talked about the word wheel last time. They'll give you suggestions on maybe types of dictionaries that you might be interested in, right? Now, remember, be careful of that word wheel. It's good and bad sometimes. If you don't have that preliminary knowledge to distinguish between what they say you need and what you actually need, you might get in trouble, right? Say in Westlaw Classic, in contrast, this is how you might search for a term in Black's Law Dictionary in Westlaw Classic. Some firms still only have Classic because it's a lot cheaper than Westlaw Next. In Classic, you'd first choose under the search box secondary sources in the bottom right of the page. Click the box where it says Black's Law Dictionary, right? Then type in your terms and connectors box whatever term you want. In this case, wrongful discharge in quotes, right? Here, let's say you did a search instead for retaliatory discharge, right? It'd come up with different definitions that may meet that search, right? It lists discharge, Marcus model, White model, and then number 3, retaliatory discharge. And it gives you what edition of Black's it actually appears in. So if you know that the most current is 2009 9th edition, tells you right there that it's the 9th edition, right? Then if you go in and click that retaliatory discharge, you select that, you actually see what it says, retaliatory discharge, and it gives you the definition right there, and it gives you topic and key numbers and so forth, right? Dictionaries on Lexis, right? On Lexis, you can find a source. See that red tab at the top of the page? It says find a source. You can click on that tab and then just type in find a source. You want to find a source that is a dictionary, right? It pulls up results when you click that. Results are listed in order of relevance. It gives you tons of different types of dictionaries, right? Occupational titles. The major one, the general one that's sort of like Black's in Lexis is Ballantyne's. A lot of attorneys and judges use it, right? Figure out, regardless of whatever you're using, figure out what dictionary or what edition you might want. Figure out what edition your judge uses. It may not be the 9th. He may be using the 8th. Figure out what edition your firm uses. There's an importance of choosing a dictionary, editions or resources of dictionaries, right? Do you want the pocket edition, or do you want a 2-volume edition, say, of a popular type of dictionary, right? What do you want? What's important for your purposes, okay? Check the scope note of whatever resource you're looking at to see what edition you're dealing with. And by the scope note, I mean these little blue and white eyes next to each resource. It'll appear in Lexis, and it'll appear in Westlaw, and it'll appear in other sources. You can find out more about the database or the resource that you're searching, right? Why does it matter? You want to make sure that either you're using the most current edition, or you might want to do what some attorneys do and cite to an edition that has the definition, say in the 7th edition of Black's, that's better for your client versus, say, the more current edition, right? Lexis Advance also has a dictionary. Finally, however, when you go to Lexis Advance and put dictionary into that Googleized search box at the top, it comes out with a number of different results, right? Not necessarily even germane to what you just searched for, right? You search for dictionary and look at what it comes up with. You have to actually choose and type into the search sources box on the top left-hand side of the page. It says search sources. Then when you do that, you can actually narrow down the type of source. So if you type in dictionary, right? Once you do that, it'll give you a list of dictionaries that you might be able to choose. It's a little more difficult to search this stuff in Lexis, Lexis Advance anyway, okay? It'll give you a choice of dictionaries. You can then choose the type of dictionary you want and then search it. Say you choose Ballantyne's, right? Ballantyne's Law, Dictionary 3rd. And then you search for termination of employment. There you go. That's what the kind of result that it'll display. It'll give the authority that it was defined in and the actual definition. How about Bieber's? What is Bieber's? It's Prince's Bieber Dictionary of Legal Abbreviations. When you start finding secondary resources in your law review articles and you have no idea what the citation means, then you go to this Dictionary of Legal Abbreviations. There is a forward dictionary that gives you abbreviations, and it tells you what those abbreviations stand for. If you're writing and you can't find the abbreviation in the Blue Book, you can find a way to abbreviate your term. For example, if you're looking for an abbreviation that's long and unwieldy, it's Rep and Ops Attorney Gen Ind. Look at the bottom right hand side of the page. Rep and Ops Attorney Gen Ind. It stands for Indiana Attorney General Reports. Okay? And here is an example of the reverse dictionary, right? Let's say that you were trying to figure out how to abbreviate American Criminal Reports, the one that spanned from 1877 to 1903. You'd realize that it's abbreviated AMCR, AMCRR. Okay? This Beavers is an excellent resource. It's another source of standardized abbreviation. You don't just need to rely on the Blue Book because the Blue Book may not give you every single type of abbreviation that might be used out there, right, in any of its tables. Okay? Depending on what your purpose is, the resource can be used by librarians, scholars, and those on law review, right? Bieber's fifth is on Lexis Advance. Okay? This dictionary is not intended as a guide for proper citation form. You need to use the Blue Book, but it'll help you find out what abbreviate and what abbreviations generally mean. Why and when might you actually abbreviate terms, right? Why might you do that? You might need to in a parenthetical for any scholarly papers, right? Sometimes there might be preference of an author. Sometimes abbreviations are done in actual white papers, right? Policy papers. You're looking for a consistent way of citing, or sometimes citing it consistently in academic writing in general. Also, you might need to figure out how to abbreviate old cases and old texts, or how to figure out the abbreviation to old reporters and old cases, right? I've always found that online resources where you have little entries that can be in multiple sections harder to use online versus the book. You have to realize how it retrieves online. You have to think of how it sorts, right? It may sort in a way that's not useful to you. So consider using Beavers in book form versus online, okay? How about thesauri? Burton's Legal Thesaurus. It's available in print. It's really useful, especially if you have to explain a legal term and figure out different ways and different words to explain your terms to, say, your client, right? It'll give you associated terms and definitions. It can be useful to you as a practitioner, but as well as an academic. If you're trying to think of ways to paraphrase a quote from another scholarly source, such as pertaining to the topic you're writing about, that thesaurus can be tremendously helpful there. I suggest you get a legal thesaurus. You might not actually need to use that thing to explain to your clients things. It's hard to find legal thesauri in Lexis and Westlaw because once you're in there doing your terms and connectors search, remember the word wheels. They give you suggested terms. We do have print thesauri in the pro se section for a law library. Finally, words and phrases, like a dictionary, but the definition comes from a court. You can figure it out why a court keeps using a term and what the case was that used it. You can use it at the federal level or at the state level. Words and phrases is telling us the definition of a particular term as defined by the court in a particular jurisdiction. So depending on whether I'm looking for federal courts and go to words and phrases, and it says it hasn't been defined by this jurisdiction, so say water rights. Say I want to know why it was defined by a certain jurisdiction, right? You might go and actually look in words and phrases. So not general definitions, but how the court is defining them and using them. This is key, as the court might have elements attached to it that they're using from the case and not from any definitions in blacks, right? Note that bigger states have their own words and phrases volumes. For every state, they have words and phrases associated with the actual physical digest. You have words and phrases for your state and for your court. Be careful when you're looking for words and phrases in a digest for your state. Some of them are actually referring to federal district courts, not just state. Okay? So if you use Westlaw Classic, you put in words and phrases, right, to search for a database of words and phrases, you see that it'll come up right here. In Westlaw Next, in contrast, you can't really find it. Remember the example I showed you last time, Rise of American Law, Dictionaries and Words and Phrases? It's not actually what you're actually searching for, okay? Here's what it looks like in print. Words and phrases, if you look for a retaliatory discharge, it'll show the different courts in the different years that term was actually defined, okay? And here's how you would update it. Remember, you have to update in print using the pocket part. What we covered in the screencast was dictionaries and thesauri. Up next in Screencast 3, we cover legal encyclopedias. Stay tuned.